Cue and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Cue and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Cue and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@cueandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, October 1. Scotland squad named as trio get first senior call-ups. Report by Ewan Payton. Steve Clarke has named his Scotland squad for the next round of Nations League matches this month, ahead of the upcoming October international break. The Scotland boss has revealed his squad. Hearts stopper Craig Gordon has returned to the national team fold after continuing in goals at club level in recent times. The 41-year-old appeared to say goodbye to Hampden during a Euro 2024 warm-up match against Finland back in June. However, he may well get another chance to represent his country, as he is named among the three goalkeepers in the squad, alongside Angus Gunn and John McCracken. Nicky Devlin, Liam Lindsay and Andy Irving have all received their first call-ups to the Scotland national team setup. Meanwhile, talisman John McGinn, Scott McKenna, Tommy Conway and Max Johnson have all missed out, mainly due to injury. Scotland will play Croatia away on Saturday, October 12, before welcoming Portugal to Hampden Park on Tuesday, October 15. Scotland squad in full. Goalkeepers: Craig Gordon, Angus Gunn, John McCracken. Defenders: Nicky Devlin, Grant Hanley, Liam Lindsay, Ryan Porteous, Anthony Ralston, Andy Robertson, John Souttar, Greg Taylor. Midfielders: Ryan Christie, Ben Doak, James Forrest, Ryan Gold, Billy Gilmer, Andy Irving, Kenny McLean, Scott McTominay, Lewis Morgan. Attackers: Che Adams, Lyndon Dykes, Lawrence Shankland. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, October 1. On loan, Celtic midfielder earns first international call-up. Report by David Irvin. Kwon has been called up to the Korea national team for the first time. The Celtic midfielder, who is on loan to Hibs, has been named in the 26-man squad for upcoming friendlies next month. Kwon will be in contention to earn his first cap against Jordan or Iran. Kwon has been involved for his country at youth level, but could now make his bow in the A squad. Korea first faced Jordan on October 10, before taking on Iraq on October 15. The 23-year-old Kwon has played 4 times for Hibs so far this season, after sealing a loan switch to David Gray's side. It comes after the midfielder spent the second half of last season on loan at St Mirren. Kwon has been named on the bench for Celtic on a handful of occasions, but has not been played a minute of competitive action for the Parkhead club. Hibs boss Gray said of signing Kwon, "He provides us with another option in midfield, being able to play as both a deeper 6 and as an 8. As a player, he's a great athlete. He's very competitive and comfortable on the ball. He showed these capabilities during an impressive loan spell last season. We are delighted to bring him to the club and look forward to working with him." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, October 1. Nick Rogers says, "Greenkeeping can be an overburdened and undervalued post." Have you ever dabbled in that artificial intelligence thingamabob, ChatGPT? Of course you haven't. If you're anything like me, and by that I mean a ham-fisted technological oaf, you're probably still getting to grips with the high-tech, cutting-edge complexion of the pumice stone. Anyway, the other day, having read a morale-boosting article about artificial intelligence eradicating the need for jobs altogether, I decided to give that ChatGPT lark a go. It can basically write stuff for you, whether it's an essay, a wedding speech, or the sombre valedictory address you will deliver when you have been made redundant and kicked onto the scrap heap by artificial bloomin' intelligence. Out of curiosity, I asked it to write a golf column in the style of Mick Roger of the Herald. Within 5 seconds, it had generated a lengthy piece called "The Golf Course, a Sanctuary of Performance and Reflection," which began with the sentence, "As the sun rises over the dewy links, casting an ethereal glow upon the rolling greens, golfers are not just trying to lower their handicap, they are engaged in a profound personal journey that transcends the sport itself." It was chin-stroking, thought-provoking, eye-opening, and enlightening stuff. And in that respect, ChatGPT had completely failed in its task of writing a column in the style of Nick Roger. Not so intelligent after all, eh? Emboldened, I went back to wrestling with my pumice stone. It's onwards this week to the Dunhill Links Championship, that annual cash-soaked, celebrity-infused birdle around the Old Course, Carnoustie and Kingsbarns. How the time hurtles by. It's a year since the event was ravaged by an unrelenting downpour that left all 3 links flooded. The scenes from Carnoustie in particular, after the Barry Burn had burst its banks, were quite extraordinary. Even more extraordinary was the fact they managed to get 54 holes completed and squelched to some kind of soggy conclusion on the Monday. There was still so much water swirling around. The prize-giving ceremony was attended by representatives from the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency. As for this week's forecast in the parishes of Fife and Angus, well, there's nothing, thankfully, that looks too concerning. Over in the United States at the weekend, the deadly hurricane that wreaked havoc in Florida also whipped through Georgia and caused considerable damage to Augusta National, the home of the Masters. Officials there, quite rightly, expressed their thoughts, first and foremost, for the wider Augusta community that had been devastated rather than their course. In no doubt it will be spruced up by the time it takes you to say, a restoration unlike any other. The greenkeepers will eventually earn their corn. But they do everywhere. Not so long ago it was Thank a Greenkeeper Day, but it really should be a show of year-round appreciation for those tireless endeavours. It can, of course, be a thankless task, particularly given the way the weather is going. In the cradle of the game, for instance, the summer can be so fleeting it passes in the brief outpouring of a resigned sigh. Many course custodians will tell you that they are losing the seasonality aspect of the job. Grisly weather can be par for the course in the winter, but now that meteorological misery seems to be more frequent during the height of the summer too. Data gathered by the British and International Golf Greenkeepers Association (BIGGA) during the 2023 campaign found that July had 150% more rainfall than usual. Putting the course closed sign up, especially in the summer, tends to see the approval rating of a greenkeeper plummet quicker than Sir Keir Starmer's popularity. For the long-term health of the course, though, needs must. Speaking recently to David Orr, the head professional at Whitecraigs, he told me that the course had been shut for 4 days in August. Bonkers was how he described the infuriating Scottish summer, and a worry for the industry. Many other courses will have been in a similarly sodden situation. In an often overburdened and undervalued job, it is perhaps not surprising that a bigger investigation the other year revealed that more than a third of greenkeepers surveyed said they were actively seeking employment outside the industry. The work of the greenkeeper is never done. In many ways, the challenges posted by a changing climate continues to showcase their valuable skills. In this country, though, they would prefer it if it was a bit drier. But there's nought we can do about the weather, is there? Not even artificial intelligence can help with that. And another thing, we may have spent most of this column lamenting changing weather patterns and damaging downpours, but every cloud has a silver lining. It was so wet for the European Challenge Tour's Swiss Challenge over the weekend. The trophy that Barassi's Ewan Walker eventually got his hands on just about had moss growing on it. The event was cut to 36 holes due to rain, but the Scots closing 66 gave him the second Challenge Tour title of his career. Walker has narrowly missed out on promotion to the DP World Tour in each of the last 2 seasons, having just finished outside the top 20 on the rankings. After this timely triumph, though, it may just be third time lucky, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, October 1. First Minister breaks silence on football alcohol ban. Report by David Irvin. First Minister John Swinney has confirmed there are no plans to lift the alcohol ban in Scottish football. The SNP chief responded to recent discourse over whether the booze ban should be lifted. Last week, Health Secretary Neil Gray had stated any proposal on lifting the alcohol ban would be given serious consideration. His comments came after SNP backbencher George Adam suggested the ban should be removed in order to help clubs increase income. Mr. Adam had said, "You already have alcohol at football games in corporate. It's just a case of funding other areas or zones in grounds to do that and make sure it's a safe and controlled environment for everyone." I think in these challenging economic times, it gives clubs another string to their bow, another chance to make some money. That goes back into our football teams. Health Secretary Gray added, "We have not had any proposal yet from football authorities as to what that would look like or how that would be managed, but any proposal will be given serious consideration in light of the situation we are talking about on the risk to harm." However, Mr. Swinney has now stated the Scottish Government do not plan to lift the ban, as he cited Scotland's relationship with alcohol and the need to keep sporting environments safe and supportive for all. He told Clyde One News, "The government does not have any plans to do this. Obviously, if we have points put to us, we have got to consider whether we want to take them forward." The Health Secretary was simply indicating that as a government that will receive representations, we will obviously consider those points. We have no plans to go down such a route because it is important that we take all necessary steps that we can to ensure that we address the country's relationship with alcohol and that we have a safe and supportive sporting environment for all. Pushed for his own view on alcohol at football matches, the First Minister added, "I have a viewpoint as First Minister of Scotland, and the government does not have any plans to take such a step." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, October 1. Inverness Caledonian Thistle set for administration. Report by Ewan Payton. Inverness Caledonian Thistle looks set to enter administration. Failure to secure investment means it is highly likely this is the route the club must take if it is to survive. The Aberdeen P&J say that the League One club stands to lose £1.2 million this season and add that a significant cash injection is required before the end of 2024. Alan Savage, Calais Thistle's former chairman, has been trying to find a buyer for the club in recent months. However, after failing to do so, administration is the inevitable option for the club. Savage used £200,000 of his own money to keep the club operating in August. The report states that top football administrator Brian Jackson has put Inverness onto BDO. They are the accountancy firm that oversaw the liquidation of Rangers and were administrators for Hearts and Dunfermline Athletic. It seems BDO will take the club into administration as the next course of action. This will immediately spell trouble both on and off the park, with redundancies and a points deduction looming. The SPFL could hand out a deduction of 15 points, which would be a hammer blow to Calais Thistle's hopes of promotion back to the Championship. Duncan Ferguson's team are already 5 points off Queen of the South at the top of League One. If the maximum punishment is dished out, then they could see themselves bottom of the table on -6 points. Meanwhile, the club has announced the signing of Charlie Riley on loan from Dundee. The 22-year-old has joined on a short-term loan until January next year. During the 22-23 season, Riley scored a whopping 24 goals and provided 19 for Albion Rovers as he was nominated for Scotland League 2 Player of the Year. He also earned a PFA Young Player of the Year nomination, which earned him a move to the Scottish Premiership. Riley spent a portion of last season on loan with Arbroath. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, October 2. How does Celtic's Dortmund disaster leave Scotland's coefficient? Report by Joe Donnelly. Celtic suffered a devastating 7-1 defeat against Borussia Dortmund in the UEFA Champions League, but the result has not impacted Scotland's European coefficient rankings. That's according to the Scotland Coefficient X account, formerly Twitter, which highlights the fact two of Scotland's national ranking rivals, Austria and Switzerland, suffered heavy defeats also. Salzburg lost 4-0 to Brest, while Young Boys were beaten 5-0 by Barcelona. 14 games of interest over the next 4 hours. Most importantly, obviously, are the Hearts and Rangers fixtures, read a message posted on Tuesday night following Celtic's comprehensive defeat. 2 victories would be fantastic, but both difficult games. We could still rise in the rankings this week for the first time this season, and 14th is the highest we can mathematically end the week. In the aftermath of the 7-1 loss, Brendan Rodgers said he was proud of the players' second-half performance, while former manager and player Neil Lennon suggested the Scottish Championship had been too nice on the night. Report by Joe Donnelly. Evening Times Sport, October 2. Yanis Hagi returns to Rangers first team squad. Report by David Irvin. Yanis Hagi has returned to the Rangers first team squad. The 26-year-old has been reinstated to Philippe Clement's side after a standoff over a contract clause. Hagi, who spent last season on loan at Alaves in La Liga, has not been part of the Ibrox first team since making a cameo appearance against Morton in August 2023. Philippe Clement previously stated the playmaker was not viewed as a permanent fixture in the long term at Rangers. A contract clause, which would reportedly have seen Hagi's wage increase due to the number of matches played, complicated the situation for the Romanian international after he failed to leave the club in the summer. The Rangers Review reports that a solution has been reached between the player and the club to allow a return to the first team. There is thought to have been a desire from both sides for a solution to be reached after the lengthy standoff with Hagi playing only for the B team. The midfielder has now returned to first team training at Rangers and could be available against St Johnstone this weekend. Hagi is not in contention to face Lyon in the Europa League, as he is not part of the registered list of players for the UEFA competition. It is thought Hagi is fit and ready to participate if called upon, having maintained his fitness levels even while out of the first team picture. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, October 2. Paul Lambert's brutal assessment of Scottish football. Report by Joe Donnelly. Former Celtic and Borussia Dortmund great Paul Lambert has shared his thoughts on what went wrong for the Parkhead side in Germany as Brendan Rodgers' men lost 7-1 on the road. The former midfielder is well acquainted with the fierce atmosphere the home crowd is capable of generating inside Signal Iduna Park, which is one facet Lambert reckons Celtic struggled with last night. Reflecting on the match on TalkSport this morning, Lambert said, "I never said it yesterday, but that's exactly what can happen in that stadium. You have got to be a big player there to handle that atmosphere. If you don't handle that, that's exactly what can happen. And I think there's going to be criticism coming Celtic's way, but I think you've got to put it into perspective." Lambert suggested that the financial disparity between the two sides was another key component of what went wrong for Celtic in Germany, while also criticising the gulf in class within Scottish football itself. And he added, "Celtic are not playing a St Johnstone, playing a Hibs, playing a Hearts. You're playing a team, albeit 5 of those 11 played in the Champions League final last year. So you've got to look at it in comparison with, rather than analyse it as a fan. I think you've got to look at it and say, well, how did that happen? The standard of Scottish football is nowhere near the same, and that is a major problem. I think there is an insular perception of Scottish football that we've got some really good teams. We have not. The level is not there anymore. When I played in the Seville game the year Martin O'Neill was a phenomenal era. Celtic cannot compete with Borussia Dortmund financially. Rangers are an absolute mess at the minute, so they cannot compete. But you're talking clubs that are global, worldwide football clubs that can fill any stadium in the world if you give them the ticket base. But there's no way that Scottish football can compete with teams like that. Borussia Dortmund, it's impossible for them to do it because of the revenue." Report by Joe Donnelly. Evening Times Sport, October 2. Defiant Rodgers defends Celtic approach. Report by David Irvin. Defiant Brendan Rodgers has defended Celtic's approach in the Champions League. The Celtic manager faced questions over the need to adapt when facing the elite clubs in Europe, but insisted he will never resort to sitting in, despite the 7-1 loss to Dortmund. Quizzed on heavy losses for Celtic in the Champions League to Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG, and now Dortmund, and why it keeps happening, Rodgers said, "It's exactly the teams you have mentioned, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund." Further pushed on whether he will alter his tactical approach in Europe, Rodgers responded, "We always have to adapt, but sometimes the quality just breaks through that. Are we going to sit in and camp and wait and wait? No, we won't do that. We play in a way that allows us domestically to dominate. We know it is going to be difficult at times for us to do that, but we still have to show our ability with the ball. I thought tonight we were not anywhere near that level. We just gave it away too easily, and then we got punished for that. We had 2 penalties in the first half. From a direct corner the guy scored, an unbelievable goal from outside the box. So before we know it, we are 4-1 down. Clearly, that can affect your confidence, but I was proud of the players in the second half. We kept fighting and kept our spirit up. We will be very disappointed with the performance. It is the first time we have had this losing feeling for a long time. But you have to learn from it and move on. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, October 2. Graham McGarry points out why McTominay's Manchester United exit can benefit Napoli and Scotland. Anyone who watched Manchester United go down pitifully to Tottenham Hotspur at the weekend could not fail to see the glaring deficiencies across their team, but one of the most obvious was their lack of a dynamic box-to-box midfielder, someone who could provide a goal threat from the middle of a park, while having the physical attributes, presence, and defensive diligence to add plenty of value going the other way too. In other words, someone exactly like Scott McTominay. Steve Clarke, then, is not the only one slightly grasping for an explanation as to why the fallen giant of English football seems to have made another monumental strategic blunder in allowing McTominay, a player who has become something of a talisman for his country, to slip from their grasp. "It's not my team, that's for sure," said Clarke, with a nod to his firm allegiance to Chelsea. "It's really difficult to know the circumstances behind their decision to let Scott leave. I would imagine it's got a lot to do with financial fair play and balancing the books, because academy-grown players are more valuable to the club than bought players. I would imagine it's something like that. Without knowing the ins and outs of it, it's difficult for me to get too involved in it." In truth, McTominay seems to never have been fully appreciated, or perhaps more accurately, never fully utilised, during his time at Old Trafford, with the outpouring of affection from the Manchester United supporters towards the Scotland international following his departure, not entirely reflective of his standing while he was a Red Devil, until very recently at least. There is no doubting his importance to his country, or the hero worship that he now enjoys whenever he pulls on the dark blue of Scotland, with his incredible scoring record provoking unending songs of endearment from the Tartan army. United's loss can be very much the gain of both his new club Napoli and for the national team, according to Clarke, who is eager to see how the move to Naples can help further develop McTominay and his international teammate Billy Gilmour, now also playing his football at the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona. He said, "I just look at them as two of our players going out on a new adventure. Obviously, Scott's had a fantastic start. Billy got a game in the Coppa Italia, which was good. Played the whole game, looked good, looked fresh, so that's good. I like the fact that the players now are prepared to go abroad. They are not afraid of that challenge. I think going to a club like Napoli, with the fan base that they've got, is going to be a good challenge for both of them, and a good platform for the development of Scottish talent as a whole over recent times, with Scots now dotted around Serie A and thriving." Said Clarke, "It seems to be. Obviously, those two boys are there. Lewis Ferguson has done really well. Che Adams has gone out there and started well for his new club Torino. Aaron Hickey had a good spell there. Josh Doig is out there playing Serie B, but playing in Italy. So it looks as though at the moment it's somewhere the Scottish boys like to go. Hopefully they can go there and improve their performances and do well for us." McTominay and Gilmour may be shoe-ins to be starting if fit against Croatia and Portugal in the forthcoming Nations League matches, but there was a slightly unfamiliar look about the fringes of Clark's squad that he announced this week, with stalwarts like John McGinn and Scott McKenna missing through injury. The presence of fresh faces like Nicky Devlin, Liam Lindsay and Andy Irving was welcomed by the Scottish manager though, and he does not foresee any disruption to the implementation of the new ideas he is trying to import to his players after their disappointing European Championship campaign. The backlash from the Euros centred mostly around the negative tactics employed by Clark, rather than the results that saw his side eliminated at the group stage yet again, and there were signs of a more positive outlook in the last Nations League camp despite defeats to Poland and Portugal. It is a path Clark hopes they can continue down, and he said, "Hopefully you can put layer upon layer every time you get together as you're trying to change the system or tweak the system a little bit in the upcoming games. Credit to my two coaches, John Carver and Alan Irvin, who worked a lot with the lads on the short training time that we got on the pitch the last time. We'll have a little bit more this time. We get together on Monday, which gives us Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to work on the training pitch, which gives us a little bit more time, and hopefully we can put a few more layers on in what we're trying to do. We are trying just to give the lads confidence to know that they can play different systems, to know that they can hurt the opposition, and I think a big part of that was to go away to Portugal and take the lead. It's a big thing. It's a big thing for belief. What we have to learn to do then is to see out the game, which we did not manage to do. We have not managed to do that in recent games because we've lost quite a lot of late goals. So it's something that we have to work on. Maybe I can help a little bit from the tactical side off the bench, and maybe the lads need to just find a little bit of mental resilience going into the last 10 minutes of games to realise that sometimes you have to settle for what you've got and not give the game away. Reports by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, October 2. St Johnstone appoint Valakari as new head coach. Report by Ewan Payton. Simo Valakari has been appointed as the new head coach of St Johnstone. The 51-year-old Finn has joined the Scottish Premiership side from FC Riga in Latvia. The former Motherwell player returns to Scottish football, having been linked with several jobs in the past, and he has signed a 3-year deal with the McDermott Park side. Valakari's first game in charge of the Perth outfit will not come at Ibrox this weekend, with Andy Kirk and Alex Cleland remaining in post for the match against Rangers. Valakari said of his appointment, "I am very happy, very excited and very proud that St Johnstone have made me their head coach. We have so many opportunities to make this an exciting journey, and the most important thing is that we are all in this together, the players, the staff, and most importantly, the fans. We want you, the fans, to engage with us as a team, and we can be even more powerful together." When I spoke to the owners and the football department, I got really excited about this project. I looked at our team as a whole and our players. Of course, the results recently have not been as positive as we would like, but I see a lot of potential in the players that we have here. That was the first thing for me. We have a potential. Now I look at the process of how we can take our team and our club forward. In football, there is no time to waste. Every minute of training counts, so I am excited to get started. I am looking forward to meeting the players, and we will become strong. St Johnstone's CEO Francis Smith added, "We will continue to review the football department setup and have already made a slight change with the appointment of Simo. Gus McPherson will now become Head of Football Operations, Scouting and Recruitment. This will allow the head coach to focus on the football and work with Gus to identify any talent that can further enhance the department." Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, October 2. Standards set by Celtic's humiliation. Report by Mark Walker. Borussia Dortmund secured their biggest European win in 59 years and their highest ever Champions League win against Celtic. And club legend and current advisor Matthias Sammer reckons they have now set the standards for the rest of the competition. Celtic were mauled in Germany after a humiliating 7-1 defeat to Dortmund. It was BVB's biggest Champions League win and their best European win since an 8-0 romp against Maltese minnows Floriana in 1965. But Sammer, who also managed the club to a Bundesliga title, has insisted they have to keep that level of performance in every match and pointed out, "A game like this sets standards. We can allow ourselves to be happy and enjoy the win. But the question I want to know is, can we play to this standard against Union Berlin at the weekend? We have now shown what we can do and how good we can be, but we need to do this every week. There are no excuses. The players have shown how good they can be." Meanwhile, the loss also marks the third time Brendan Rodgers has watched his side concede 7 goals in the Champions League, having lost 7-0 against Barcelona in 2016 and 7-1 against Paris Saint-Germain in 2017. This also makes him the first and only manager to have conceded 7 goals in the competition on more than one occasion, far less 3 times. Other teams have conceded more goals in one match. Dinamo Zagreb lost 9-2 against Bayern Munich last month, whereas Besiktas lost 8-0 to Liverpool in 2008 and Malmo to Real Madrid by the same margin in 2015. But with 6 games of this season's UCL campaign remaining, the Irishman will naturally be keen to avoid similar deficits moving forward. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, October 3. Atalanta boss expects tough game against Celtic. Report by Mark Walker. Atalanta boss Gian Piero Gasperini has warned his side to expect a tough match against Celtic, despite their Champions League capitulation. Celtic are next in action in Italy in their third round of fixtures when they face Atalanta in Bergamo later this month. The Serie A side have made a positive start to the tournament after a goalless draw with Arsenal, and then they comfortably beat Shakhtar Donetsk 3-1 in Gelsenkirchen. Brendan Rodgers' side crashed to a disastrous 7-1 mauling in Germany to Borussia Dortmund, but Gasperini still expects Celtic to provide a real challenge. And he said, "It's too early to be thinking about what we need in quality, but it is clear we're in a good position so far to qualify." But already I am only thinking about our next game with Celtic. They will be tough opponents, and after that we have to play Stuttgart, Barcelona and Real Madrid. So it is very important to get points as quickly as possible. But I have to praise my players because technically they were very good and we deserved the win against Shakhtar. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, October 3. Canada manager explains Alistair Johnston injury omission. Report by Mark Walker. Celtic star Alistair Johnston has been left out of the Canada squad because he is rehabbing a back injury, according to their manager Jesse Marsh. The right back played in Celtic's Champions League mauling in Germany to Borussia Dortmund, where they crashed to a 7-1 humbling defeat. He came off before the end and looked in some discomfort and was replaced by Scotland international fullback Anthony Ralston for the closing moments of the game. But he has been withdrawn from the Canada squad for their friendly later this month against Panama in Toronto because of a troublesome back injury. Manager Marsh explained, Johnston and midfielder Ismail Cohen are both rehabbing injuries. It's back and ankle injuries for them. Johnson admitted after the game Celtic will have to bounce back quickly and said, we have got to understand what we did wrong, what they punished us with, and what we did right. There are not as many things we did right in this match, unfortunately, but there will be little moments where we could make a little change to be braver in our positioning, to be more compact defensively, and things like that. We will get it sorted out. It's a really confident group we have here. We are not going to let this wobble us at all. We just have to understand it can happen, but it can't happen again. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, October 3. Leaked Celtic Adidas retro kit is modelled by former player. Report by Joe Donnelly. Celtic have announced a retro-inspired fit that leans into Adidas' recent foray into old-school designs among Europe's top clubs, and have called upon none other than former player Michael Lustig to model the new range. Unlike the likes of Juventus, Manchester United and Real Madrid, who have all launched similar throwback jerseys this season, it seems unlikely Celtic will actually wear this one on the pitch, but it is indeed real, having been leaked by Footy headlines earlier this year. At £85, the long-sleeved green and gold shirt is not cheap, nor is the coinciding similar colour palette collection. But for better or worse, that's around the going rate for these sorts of drops in 2024. The official Celtic website reads, the new Adidas Originals Celtic Football Club collection is now released, featuring bold, nostalgic pieces perfect for those who want to stand out on a match day. Modelled by none other than Celtic icon Michael Lustig himself, the range features retro-inspired fits and striking three-stripe designs, with tops, hoodies and tracksuits to choose from. Meanwhile, Arne Engels has played down Celtic's Dortmund defeat in the German media. Speaking to the sports media outlet Kicker, the 21-year-old praised the home side's performance on match day 2 of the 24-25 UEFA Champions League, while likewise suggesting Celtic had an off day and looked forward to bouncing back domestically. Engels said, "We just did not play well. Dortmund were really strong, but I still think 7-1 was a bit too much. We have to stick together now. We concentrate on ourselves and just look to the next game. It's happening so quickly. There's no time to think about it for long. We just have to get on with it. It wasn't our best game. I think everyone could see that. The good thing is that our next game comes quickly, and it's up to us to show again that Dortmund was just a bad day and that we're still in a good mood. Even though today was a bad day for us, we are usually much better." Evening Times Sport, October 3. What to look out for at the Women's T20 World Cup. England will be out to end a 15-year drought at the T20 World Cup, but defending champions Australia once again remain the team to beat. Here is the PA news agency look at the 9th staging of the Women's T20 World event, which gets underway with a clash between nominal host Bangladesh and Scotland today. Bangladesh were originally slated to stage the tournament for a second time, having first done so in 2014, but recent political unrest in the country led to the International Cricket Council relocating its event to the United Arab Emirates, with the Bangladesh Cricket Board keeping hosting rights. What is the format? There is little margin for error in this 10-team tournament comprising just 23 matches in 18 days. 12 games, including the final on October 20, will be held in Dubai, with the other 11 in Sharjah. There are 2 groups of 5, where teams play each other once, and the top 2 advance to the semi-finals. Can England go all the way? Semi-finalists in South Africa last year, England are on a roll, having won all 8 T20s this summer, while Nat Sciver-Brunt and Sophie Ecclestone will spearhead their bid for a first title since 2009. It is difficult to look past 6-time champions Australia, who are targeting a 4th straight crown, but a silver lining for England is they won the T20 portion of last year's Ashes series 2-1. What is expected of Scotland? Having sealed a place at a World Cup first time in their history, Scotland will attempt to upset the odds and win one of their Group B matches against Afghanistan, Bangladesh, England and South Africa. Catherine Bryce, the player of the tournament in the Charlotte Edwards Cup this year, and sister Sarah will be captain and vice-captain, while they will have several all-rounders to choose from. Who are the ones to watch? Ashley Gardner of Australia, Nat Sciver-Brunt, England, Jemima Rodriguez, India, Abtaha Maksud, Scotland, Shamari Athapathu, Sri Lanka, and Hayley Matthews, West Indies. Watch these ones. Evening Times Sport, October 3. Crucial Europa League rule change which could impact Rangers' campaign. Report by David Evan. Rangers began their Europa League campaign in perfect style with victory over Malmö in Sweden. Tonight against Lyon, Philippe Clement's men will look to make it 6 points from 6 in the revamped league phase format in the European competition. Under the new league system, which replaced the group stage, clubs will play 8 matches against 2 clubs from each of the 4 seeding groups. Rangers first played Malmö and next face Lyon at Ibrox before fixtures against FCSB, Olympiacos, Nice, Tottenham, Manchester United and Union Saint-Gilloise. The league phase will determine the 24 clubs advancing into the latter stages of the competition, with the other 12 clubs exiting the tournament and not falling into the Conference League. The top 8 clubs from the league phase will advance directly to the round of 16 without featuring in the play-off round. Ideally, Rangers would want to take a top 8 finish and avoid the playoffs. However, a crucial ruling in the new format could come into play should Rangers finish between 9th and 24th. As pointed out on the Scotland's Co-Efficient X account and detailed in Article 19 of the UEFA Europe League rulings, clubs will enter a draw for the playoff round in groups of 2. Clubs finishing 9th and 10th will face clubs 23rd or 24th. A 22nd place finish would mean the possibility of playing either the 11th or 12th place club in the league phase, and so on. In theory, a better league phase placement should mean an easier draw in the playoff round. Furthermore, a critical detail for Rangers comes in Article 19, where it is stated that the seeded clubs, those 9th to 16th, will play the return leg matches in the playoff round at home. The UEFA ruling, tweaked from previous draw-based home and away leg decisions, means that should Rangers finish between 9th and 16th, then they would have a guaranteed home match in the second leg of the playoff round. Rangers boast a strong record in the Europa League when playing at Ibrox in recent history, with a number of memorable outings en route to the final in 2022. According to Scotland's coefficient, a points total of 9 or 10 points should be enough to make the top 24 of the league phase. It is likely between 14 and 16 points would be necessary to make the top 8 of the league phase and progress to the round of 16 without featuring in the playoff. Meanwhile, a Lyon star has a 50-50 verdict as he insists Rangers are not underdogs tonight. Corentin Tolisso has shrugged off claims about that underdog tag for the Ibrox club. The French midfielder has instead suggesting he is expecting a tight affair in Glasgow. World Cup winner Tolisso is anticipating that it will be a hard-fought match and said, "I think Rangers were in pot 1 like us. I'd say it's 50-50. I would not say Rangers are the underdogs by any means." And the former Bayern Munich midfielder continued, "We're both big teams playing at the same level. We both made a good start in our campaigns, but this week Rangers will have home advantage. Like us, they have not had the perfect start to the season, but we are improving and we want a big win." Tolisso previously played for Bayern in Glasgow against Celtic and is relishing the opportunity to play in front of a capacity Ibrox club this time round. And he continued, "The last time I played in Europe with Lyon, it was against Ajax. I know we lost that time, but I remember the atmosphere being amazing in the home and away leg. When I was at Bayern as well, I got to experience a lot of European nights. I remember we played against Celtic. I had a chance to come to Glasgow and experience the atmosphere, and I know it's similar at Rangers. I'm glad to be back here and playing in that kind of atmosphere." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, October 3. Rory McIlroy hopes Dunhill links can aid golf's peace deal. Report by Nick Roger. We can only wonder what old Tom Morris would have made of the current fractured state that men's professional golf finds itself in. To be honest, we probably would have got more sense out of the memorial bronze statue of this treasured Albion that was unveiled on the Bow Butts in St Andrews yesterday than we've had out of the game's power brokers over the last few months. Here at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship, the annual big money borough around the Old Course, Kingsbarns and Carnoustie, there's plenty of talk about some kind of harmonious deal finally being struck between the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, and the Saudi Public Investment Fund, PIF, that bankrolls the breakaway LIV series. The fact that the PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan and the Governor of the PIF, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, are playing in the same group on the opening day of the Pro-Am contest has sparked fevered speculation about high-powered talks being held on the links. Then again, I don't think they are going to decide the future of golf in 5 hours around Carnoustie, said the defending champion, Matt Fitzpatrick, of a proposed working alliance that first reared its head to the shock of the golfing world a year past June. I know Carnoustie is pretty bloody hard. There's not much time for talking, he added. Fitzpatrick's musings certainly conjured up some delicious imagery. So Yasser, do you think we can just put the tin lid on this deal and move on? Says Monahan in an imaginary conversation in my head. Will you pipe down, Jay? Can't you see I've just topped it into the Barry bloomin' burn? The presence of these big hitters has certainly attracted attention and a few observations. Scottish Tour pro Richie Ramsey, for instance, took to social media and gave his own thoughts on how the protracted discussions should be conducted and concluded. Ramsey wrote, "Look them in the Jaeger Inn and tell them to sort it out before they are allowed out. Given the prices in that well-kent St Andrews watering hole, a lock-in there would probably amount to the same as a LIV golf prize fund." Rory McIlroy, meanwhile, is hoping the fresh, bracing autumnal air of the home of golf can clear some heads and bring clarity to an ongoing saga that has wearied all and sundry. The world number 3, who is partnering his dad Jerry, will also play alongside Monahan and Al-Rumayyan over the course of the first 54 holes. McIlroy told BBC Sport Northern Ireland, "There's no better place than the home of golf to try and get everyone together and talking. I think it's a great thing and a good sign that Jay and Yasser are going to play together. And obviously you've got quite a big contingent over from LIV that are playing in this event." I think what Johan Rupert, the man who runs this event, the Dunhill Links, is trying to do is just bring the golf world back together a little bit. If we need to be forced together in some way, he's trying to do that. I think it will be good. It's certainly a step in the right direction. McIlroy is hopeful that some kind of deal can be signed and sealed by the end of the year. These things, of course, tend to move slower than an actual round at the Dunhill Links. For Billy Horschel, the new BMW PGA champion, who will team up with Monahan this week, it's a case of the sooner the better. Horschel was one of the more outspoken critics of LIV and the rebels who jumped on board the Saudi gravy train, but, like everybody else, he just wants some closure. And he said, "I could never have imagined that the divide that we've created in the game would create such a disinterest in the fans, and that's really who has sort of been hurt by all this. I do believe that there's been goodwill on both sides to try to make a deal happen over the last 18 months, but it may not move as quickly as people want. I feel like all golf fans. As much as I play golf for a living, I'm a golf fan. I'm a golf fanatic. I do believe some coming together, some semblance of healing and showing what the game is going to be going forward is what we need for everyone involved, but especially for the fans." Old Tom would probably have agreed, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, October 3. Rangers announce full stand tifo for Lyon Europa League tie. Report by David Irvin. Rangers have announced a full stand tifo ahead of the Europa League tie against Lyon. A club update has stated a major display will be staged in the Copeland Road stand ahead of the league phase contest tonight. The Copeland Road stand will be fully open for the European tie after construction works were concluded, and the tifo will be displayed over the full stand as a capacity crowd returns to Ibrox for the European fixture after early matches in Champions League qualifying were held at Hampden. Rangers supporters have regularly staged major displays in the Broomloan stand on European nights, and a club statement read, "There will be a full stand tifo in the Copeland Road stand. All supporters in that area are invited to take part and create another spectacular Ibrox visual ahead of the players leaving the tunnel, with the display ending ahead of kick-off." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, October 4. Clermont unhappy with wasteful Rangers. Report by Stuart Wilson. Philippe Clermont knows Rangers' lack of clinical touch let them down again as they lost 4-1 to Lyon in the UEFA Europa League. Václav Černý and James Tavernier missed gilt-edged chances to put the Scottish Premiership giants ahead, and they were picked off moments later, with Malik Fofana netting the first of two for him on the night, and Alexandre Lacazette scoring a double, to ensure it was the League One side who left Ibrox with maximum points. Speaking to 2NT Sports after the match, the Rangers manager said, "The scoreline, we don't reward ourselves. We have 200% chances the first two chances of the game. You need to kill them off. If it's 1-0 or 2-0, it's a totally different game. But we end up behind by losing the ball in places that we cannot lose balls, and then our defending is not sharp enough. We come back to 1-1, but there's 2 other goals also which we concede because we lose the ball in our own half, so that's very disappointing. Lyon is then in the sofa and can wait for transitions. They are a team with a lot of good players, technical qualities. They made a tremendous third goal, and then in the second half we tried to push to come back. In the end of the game, we had the same amount of chances as Lyon, same numbers, but the scoreline is clear, and that's the difference in quality and finishing. Clement has talked a lot about how his Rangers team are constantly evolving and becoming a better version of themselves, and he shared a similar sentiment following defeat against a tough opponent. He explained, "The good thing is we kept the support of the fans because they could see the team kept on digging in and working hard together. They were trying to create things and scoring goals, but we need to get better at this level in our defending 1-against-1 and killing off the chances. So the positive is that against a very good team, we created so many good chances by playing good football. But the next step that we need to take is to finish off the job. That stays the most important in football. We're going to work hard on that over the next couple of months." There's still plenty more games to play in this newly revamped Europa League phase, and Clement understands that failing to register 3 points at home this time around is not a complete disaster given the magnitude of Rangers' competitors. And he added, "We know the reality in the group and the qualities and budget of players. We went full out to win this game, but against opponents of this type of quality, you need to take your moments. If you don't take them, then you don't deserve anything from the game." Report by Stuart Wilson. Evening Times Sport, October 4. Dunhill Links effect provides hope in quest for golfing peace, says Nick Roger. Whatever you wanted to do at the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship, it was a lovely day to do it. You may, for instance, have fancied seeing what all the fuss was about by following the PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan and the Saudi Public Investment Fund Governor Yasser as they were plonked in the same group of the Pro-Am affair at Carnoustie. Then again, most casual observers peering on would probably have had no idea who these 2 gentlemen were, despite us mouth-frothing golf writers eagerly billing their appearance together as something akin to 007 playing with blooming Goldfinger. In the ongoing quest for peace in our golfing time, the cordial clatter and batter about the links has been viewed as another step in the right direction for a men's professional game that remains so fractured it just about needs a cast and a splint. While South Africa's veteran campaigner Darren Fishart set a scintillating pace at Kingsbarns with an 11 under 61, another South African, the Dunhill Links Supremo Johan Rupert, was just as enthused by the genial scene involving 2 of global golf's most powerful figures. I have known Jay Monahan for a very long time, and I have got to know His Excellency Al Rumayyan as well, and they both only have the best interests of golf at heart, suggested Rupert. We need to keep on having days like today. Golf is supposed to be a maker of friends. We have a war going on in Ukraine, and a terrible situation in the Middle East, and another war going on in Sudan, and we argue about golf. Surely all we want to do is see the best players in the world playing together. In the grand scheme of life and all that, it's not a bad old life meanwhile when you're playing 3 of Scotland's best links courses in beautiful autumnal weather. Fichat certainly enjoyed it. The 49-year-old posted his lowest competitive round since 2001 as he took advantage of the inviting, benign conditions and delivered a lively card which featured 9 birdies and 2 eagles. That was sweet, he said with a beam as bright as a halogen headlamp after finishing a stroke ahead of Australia's John Cameron. I had a really poor 3-putt on my second hole, and I was like, oh my goodness, it's going to be a grind today. But then I made something like a 100-foot putt for eagle on the next hole, and the train just kept on going. Scotsman David Law is well aware that he needs to get going too, while his compatriot Scott Jamieson opened with a fine 9 under 63 at Kings Barnes. Law finished just a shot behind him after a 64 over the same course. At a lowly 141st in the Race to Dubai rankings, Law is running out of time in his battle to keep his DP World Tour card. With its whopping prize fund though, the Dunhill Links has been the saviour of many a struggling Scot down the seasons, and Law, a winner on the tour back in 2019, is hoping he too can give himself a timely tonic on home turf. Said Law of his perilous position, I am aware of the situation that I'm in. I need a big week, and this one is a fantastic opportunity. I know the golf I need to play, and this score was very pleasing. Jamieson, who had missed 5 of his last 6 cuts, revelled in a return to his native land and conjured an eagle and 7 birdies in a neatly assembled round. Smiled at the 40-year-old. What's not to love? You've got Scotland, the sun is out, no wind. It's pretty much the perfect day, isn't it? Robert McIntyre, who's partnering his dad Dougie in the Pro-Am team contest, opened with a 5 under 67 at Carnoustie and was joined on that mark by Fifer Connor Syme. Most of the star attractions were over at Carnoustie with Rory McIlroy, who is teaming up with his old man Jerry, posting a 3 under 69. Definitely room for improvement there for both of the McIlroys, he said with a wry grin. John Rahm, the most high-profile defector to the LIV golf series that is bankrolled, got up and running with a 7 under 65. As for those ongoing peace talks, I feel like we've all gone down that road before and been mistaken, said a cautious Rahm. I won't let myself believe anything until it is actually true. We all live in hope, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, October 4. Leon admits they could have been beaten by Rangers. Report by Stuart Wilson. Pierre Sage has admitted that Lyon were fortunate not to end up a goal or 2 behind before they went on to sink Rangers at Ibrox. The Scottish Premiership side came out of the traps positively and threatened Lyon's 18-yard box on several occasions. James Tavernier did not have the prowess to convert beyond Lucas Perry from close range in the opening exchanges, and Václav Černý spurned an opportunity that looked easier to miss before man of the match Malik Fofana scored the game's opener. Tom Lawrence responded for Rangers with an important equaliser, but it was the French outfit who would go on to win the UEFA Europa League clash at ease in the end. Veteran striker Alexander Lacazette restored the lead, then powered home a third before half-time, leaving Butler stranded, and Fofana rounded off the scoring on 55 minutes, but it really could have been much more. The Lyon head coach said in his post-match press conference, "Our backs were up against the wall in the first 10 minutes. Rangers could have taken the lead and would have deserved it, but we scored just after they equalised, and that was the worst possible moment for them. Then we were able to get a third just before half-time, and that killed the game. We were able to score in really decisive moments, and that had a big impact on the opponent's psychology." Asked about the quality showing produced by Fofana, Sage added, "He scored 2 but could have had a hat-trick. He's a really big talent." Report by Stuart Wilson. Evening Times Sport, October 4. Rangers player slaughtered by French media over miss. Report by Ewan Payton. Vaclav Cherny has been slaughtered by French media over that Rangers miss. The winger, on loan from Wolfsburg in Germany, missed what can only be described as an absolute sitter from around 7 yards out during last night's 4-1 defeat to Lyon in the Europa League. Faced with more or less an open goal during the early moments of the match, the Czech attacker blazed over the bar on the half volley. The 26-year-old really ought to have done better, as he miscued his shot, which he hit with too much power. He even had time to take a touch before quickly firing home. His miss, with the score goalless, set the tone as the visitors swiftly took advantage at the other end moments later, as they went on their way to a comfortable victory against Rangers. French newspaper L'Équipe rated Cherny at just 3 out of 10, as he, Cyril Dessers, Jack Butland, and the manager Philippe Clement all got the same low score. The only player to be rated worse was John Souttar, who was brutally given 2 out of 10. L'Équipe wrote that Cherny simply had to bury his early chance, as things could have been different had Clement's side taken the lead. The first of 2 reports from Le Figaro said of the opportunity, "Incredible miss in front of the empty goal will give Scottish fans nightmares." Their second report added, "An improbable miss." Another outlet, 20 Minutes, was equally as brutal in their assessment, saying, "The not-so-bald divine of the Rangers' attack." In their live block coverage of the game, they later added, "Cherny is not lucky tonight. The Rangers' Czech striker, who made a huge mistake just before Lyon opened the scoring, this time sends a ball into the Clyde." Writing more generally about the game, L'Équipe's report reads, "There is, for the moment, a League One version and a Europa League version of Lyon. In terms of European class, after a clear inaugural success against Olympiacos a week ago at home, Pierre Sage's Lyonnais following up with a large victory on the pitch of Glasgow Rangers, which keeps them in second place in the provisional C3 ranking behind Lazio. In this crazy match at Ibrox, with a slightly biased score, Lyon were as formidable in the opponent's area as they were feverish in their own. The attacking trio had a blast, with Ryan Bashki in the excellent role of off-centre leader, author of 2 festivals on the 2 goals of Malik Fofana, unstoppable in his left wing. Le Parisien added, Lyon inflicted one of their very rare home defeats on Rangers in recent years on the European stage, as they had already done in September 2021. Philippe Clement's light blues have really turned on the lights and taken the thunder of the Rhone, despite having won 4 in a row, all without conceding a goal. Report by Ewan Payton.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels, @Q&Review, and to tell your friends about our service.